Only making plans for Nigel. Security uppermost today at an industrial estate in Coventry. Under the arches of the M6, in a family engineering business in the manufacturing heart of England, Nigel Farage's Brexit Party, first out of the blocks, campaigning for Euro elections on the day we were once supposed to leave Europe.
Good morning. The 23rd of May is the first step of the Brexit Party. Our task and our mission is to change politics for good, to change all aspects of politics in this country.
Again and again that mantra. Westminster's made a complete dog's Brexit of it all. You've been sold out, betrayed.
I do believe that we can win these European elections and that we can again start to put the fear of God into our members of Parliament in Westminster. They deserve nothing less than that after the way they've treated us over this betrayal.
Also unveiled today, candidate Annunziata Rees-Mogg, sister of Jacob, Tory defector, and no, she told me, my brother isn't leaving too. Mr Farage hopes his party will seize Labour and Tory votes from England's two-party parliamentary wreckage. Both major parties and their defectors know that, whether they see him as a threat or a clown.
This strange notion that somehow Nigel Farage isn't part of the establishment and that this is somehow all about an anti-establishment vote. Nigel Farage and his colleagues are the establishment. And I think that what we're seeing as well is that the catastrophic consequences of a no-deal Brexit, what that would mean for real people's lives.
Others are attacking in different ways today. Put in www.thebrexitparty.com and you get this. An anti-Farage website. Back in Coventry, though, two big messages today. First, we've got no big donors, so forget Aaron Banks. And the big sell, no extremists in our ranks, unlike, he claims, UKIP.
I warned UKIP, don't let in the Tommy Robinson type characters, and worse than him, the entourage around it. I warned them not to do it. They've done it, and I think as a result of that, they're a spent political force.
And from what we could gauge, the Brexit party goers are buying this. Why, for you, would it be, as I presume, the Brexit party rather than UKIP?
Well, principally because what Nigel mentioned about the role of the new membership, imports from National Front and so on.
Right, they've avoided extremism, as you would say.
Yes.
And that's the crucial difference.
Oh, definitely.
I think UKIP, the direction that it's gone with the anti-Islam and Tommy Robinson, sidelining and supporting them, I think it's just gone down the wrong direction for me.
UKIP, however, who hired Tommy Robinson as an advisor, rejects Mr Farage's claims.
That is a slur. He's known me for about 27 years. He knows the kind of person I am. That is just a complete slur against me and against the party. And if you actually looked at what I've done with the party over the last 12 months, I've taken it up from the point of near collapse, financial and political. I wouldn't be able to do that if people believed the lies and the slurs of the mainstream media and people like Mr Farage.
We won the referendum and we haven't got a Brexiteer in charge.
Outside the security cordon today, something rather British and quietly impressive.
So then turn around and say the people voted for no deal is a con.
A small protest from Remainers, Brexit partygoers joining them in earnest but polite debate. So there you have it. One with the Gilets jaunes, coincidence I'm sure, but a group of young people, some very much Remain, some passionately Brexit, having a perfectly civilised discussion on a street corner just outside today's launch. There is hope yet in divided Britain. Alex Thompson, Channel 4 News, Coventry.
Well, talks between government ministers and Labour on a possible Brexit deal have been going on again today without much sign of progress, although the Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said he was feeling positive.
Talks are going on, constructive, so we're hopeful.
Do you think
positive.
Positive. Do you think anything could be sorted out over the Easter recess?
We're working out a timetable. There's a fair amount of detailed work that will go on over the next week to 10 days. And then we'll see where we're at.
Have the government changed any of the red lines?
I'm not going into the detail of it. We're trying to be as constructive as we possibly can on all sides and trying to be as positive as we possibly can. but we'll see by the end of next week how far we've got.
Well, meanwhile, the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, is in Washington for meetings with the International Monetary Fund. But even thousands of miles couldn't separate him from questions about Brexit. Our reporter, Danny Isdale, spoke to Mr. Hammond earlier, and she joins us now from Washington, D.C. Danny.
Well, Kathy, this annual trip you'd have to think would have been cancelled in the event of a no deal. But as it is, Philip Hammond is here in Washington for these spring meetings with the IMF, with an extension under his belt and having averted, at least for the time being, a no deal, which of course is what the IMF had predicted could cause a recession. So you can understand that he seemed visibly relieved. He also seemed fairly confident, more confident than some others, it must be said, about the success of the cross-party talks. He seemed to think there would be an outcome, and there would be one soon, perhaps within a matter of months, and that the talks would continue through this recess. And he also didn't rule out in those talks discussing a customs union. He did stick to the line, though, that Theresa May has already negotiated a deal that he says has all the benefits of a customs union. Of course, that deal, as we know, has failed 3 times in the Commons. As for a second referendum, the Chancellor said that perhaps timing is a little too tight for that, that a vote would have to be triggered very soon for that to be able to happen by October 31st. And speaking of soon, the European elections, as we've just heard, are of course around the corner now. And with that in mind, I began our interview with the Chancellor by asking him if his party has any strategy at all about how to save his Tory MEPs from being wiped out.
Well, the plan is to try not to have to hold the European elections at all. Our clear preference is to get a deal done now, to push it through Parliament, and we can do this very quickly if we've got cooperation across the House to do it, in such a way that we can cancel the European parliamentary elections before May 22nd, and that's our clear preference.
The train's already on the tracks, campaign's beginning. Surely there must have to be some plan if that actually happens.
Well, if the European elections have to go ahead, they have to go ahead. That wouldn't be our preferred outcome. And if they do have to go ahead, then I would very much hope that any members of the European Parliament elected will never have to take their seats.
But what would they be telling voters during the campaign that the plan is in terms of whether it would be Theresa May's already failed deal?
So what we know about the vast majority of voters in the country is that they just want us to leave. They don't care about the details of the deal we do. They're not particularly interested in the precise arrangements. They just want us to do the deal, get out, so that we can move on with our lives. And that will be our message in the election, that we are committed to delivering Brexit, to ending freedom of movement. And of course, we will have to build a consensus across the House of Commons to exit. But exit we will, and that's clearly what people want us to do.
The planning for a no-deal scenario has stopped. Civil servants have stepped down those preparations. Does that mean that a no-deal won't happen?
What we've done is stepped down the immediate no-deal planning, the planning we were doing for the possibility of a no-deal exit later today. But the longer-term work, preparing Britain for being outside the European Union, work that will be required whether it's a deal or no deal, is continuing and will continue.
How damaging would that be for the economy if come October we're in the same position and we're facing a no-deal scenario?
Well, leaving without a deal would be very bad for the British economy, but that is very clearly not our plan. There are 650 members of Parliament. It is clear that the overwhelming majority of them are strongly opposed to leaving with no deal. So that makes it much less likely that that will ever happen, but it is nonetheless the default at 31st of October if we don't get a deal in place by then.
So if a no deal isn't off the table, these cross-party talks are very important.
Yes.
How will the government concede some of those red lines? Are you willing to consider a permanent customs union?
Well, I've said already that we go into these talks on the basis that we agree with the Labour Party that we have to deliver Brexit and that we have to end freedom of movement. But on the details of how we do that...
Specifically on the customs union, where do you stand on that?
But on the detail, beyond those things, we haven't set red lines. We're not going into the talks on the basis
so that is under consideration.
That we won't discuss this or we won't discuss that. We're prepared to discuss all these issues. That doesn't mean that just because the Labour Party has proposed them, we will agree them, but we're prepared to discuss them.
Where do you stand on that? Would you support a customs union if that was the only way to avoid a no deal?
So we have negotiated a deal which delivers many of the benefits of the customs union while still allowing the UK to have the opportunity to pursue third country trade deals. And what we want to persuade our colleagues in Parliament of is the benefit of having that best of both worlds, being able to get the benefits of being in a customs union while also having the opportunity to pursue third country trade deals.